Welcome to the Explainer. So, after years of, well, let's be honest, brutal price action, the crypto world feels like it's at a major crossroads. Is the story over? Or is this really just the beginning of a whole new chapter? Let's dive in and try to figure it out. The crypto world right now is just a total paradox. On one hand, you've got Wall Street and big tech getting ready for what they see as this massive, exponential S-curve style growth. But on the other hand, a lot of the OGs, the early crypto natives, the pioneers who built this thing, they're just feeling completely burned out. It's this huge, weird transition, and it really sets the stage for everything we're going to talk about. And that really brings us to the central question for this whole explainer. What is actually going on behind all the crazy headlines and the price charts that, let's face it, don't make a lot of sense sometimes? To even begin to answer that, we've got to look back at where we've just been. All right, so let's kick things off by looking back at the last few years, a period the source material calls the Red Queen cycle. And I've got a feeling, if you've been in this space at all recently, this is going to feel, very, very familiar. This quote from Through the Looking Glass, it just perfectly captures the vibe, right? The 2021 bull run pulled expectations so ridiculously far into the future. It created this insane level of hype. And ever since then, it feels like the entire industry has just been running as fast as it can, just to stay in the same place. It's like trying to catch up to its own shadow. And if you want a number to put all that running in place into perspective, here it is. Think about this. Even with the huge, historic Bitcoin ETF launch and all the innovation we've seen, Bitcoin is still down about 15% against gold since that 2021 peak. And gold is that classic, traditional safe haven. So it just goes to show you, despite all that effort, crypto hasn't quite convinced the big leagues of its value. At least, not yet. And look, it wasn't just about hype dying down. The source points to some really deep structural problems that made everything worse. You had revenue models that only worked when prices were going up. You had massive regulatory uncertainty hanging over everything. And then you had these weird incentive structures where the equity holders and the token holders weren't on the same page. It was basically a perfect storm for a long, slow, painful bleed out for most assets. But here's the thing. There's a silver lining to all that pain. As demoralizing as it was, that whole process was actually incredibly helpful for the space. It completely washed out all the projects that were just hype and had no real substance, the vaporware, and it forced a reality check that was frankly long overdue. So, that big reality check, that painful clearing out of all the junk, that wasn't the end of the story. Not at all. It was actually the foundation for what came next. Because while all that noisy chaos was happening on the surface, something much quieter and way more substantial was being built in the background, what the source calls the enlightened crypto economy. Okay, and this is where it starts to get really, really interesting. Because during that whole bear market, the industry actually built real, tangible things that work. We're talking about digital dollars that can move around the world cheaply. We're talking about permissionless exchanges that are open 24/7, global lending markets that are totally automated. And the key thing here is that these things are showing real growth that has nothing to do with market speculation. This is that huge shift from just building pipes to actually having stuff flow through them. And what's really cool is how you can see the industry actively fixing its own past mistakes. Remember the poor disclosure? Now we have maturing data providers. Those misaligned incentives, people are figuring out how to make equity and token models work together. And that focus on pure hype, it's being replaced by a focus on generating actual real-world cash flow. It's a space growing up, basically. So, as a result of all this cleanup and real building, we're starting to see a few clear winners emerge from the pack. Blockchains like Ethereum and Solana are really cementing themselves as the financial foundation of the internet, and they're attracting everybody from the tiny, scrappy startups all the way up to the Wall Street behemoths. And this all leads to a really powerful question, right? After 4 years of just getting hammered, expectations are pretty much at rock bottom. But with real value being built under the hood and valuations totally reset, what if the industry is actually poised to go exponential all over again? What if everyone is underestimating the potential here? Maybe it pays to start dreaming a little again. Okay, so this brings us squarely into the future and to the central argument of the analysis, that crypto isn't just another piece of technology. It's an idea whose time has finally, truly come. And why now? Well, just look at the global vibe, the zeitgeist. Trust in institutions is way down. Government spending seems completely unsustainable. You see blatant currency debasement happening. The world is deglobalizing and fragmenting. Crypto's core ideas, decentralization, self-sovereignty, they just happen to line up perfectly with some of the biggest trends shaping our world today. It's like this one professor said way back in 2018, and this was really sharp of him. He said that in 10 years, the world would be grateful we built this parallel system. And honestly, with each passing day, the need for something like that just becomes more and more obvious. That prediction is looking smarter by the minute. And hey, for anyone out there who thinks the wild, speculative days are totally over, well, the source has a reminder for us. Speculation is a totally natural, cyclical part of any big new technology. It doesn't just go away. It ebbs and flows with innovation and what people are feeling. And this is absolutely critical as we look to the future. You have to understand that the game has changed. The rules for what it takes to win have fundamentally completely shifted. And this might be the single most important takeaway from this whole analysis. Just because crypto as an idea might be inevitable, that does not mean your favorite coin is safe. In fact, it might be headed straight to zero. The old saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, that's not going to fly this time around. I mean, this really captures the shift perfectly. The old era was all about making fortunes on vaporware and pure hype. The new era, it's about generating real cash flow and facing down fierce competition from massive enterprises. To put it bluntly, the easy money days are over. Think of it this way. The entrance of serious players from Wall Street and Silicon Valley is going to act like a great filter. They are raising the bar for absolutely everyone. And in this new, much tougher, more competitive world, only the strongest projects are actually going to make it through. So, what does this all mean for you, for anyone watching this space? Well, the job isn't just about catching the next hype wave anymore, not even close. It's about doing the hard work of figuring out who is building something real, something that will last. The sunset of that old era is officially behind us. And the big question now is, who's going to own the sunrise?